Aha! Hi everyone and welcome to Dr. Jankila's lectures. Today's lecture is about cancer development. Previously, I did cover what cancer is, which is a genetic disease. And these genetic changes happen due to several reasons, which all leads to a genetic changes in the DNA that over time leads to cancer. So, one of those reasons is basically while a cell is dividing, so while a normal cell, it's becoming or dividing into brand new cells, an error happens. And this error basically continues, and as it continues over time, it becomes an oncogene that leads to cancer. So this is a normal cell. A second reason would be a harmful substance. For example, chemicals in tobacco. Another example would be ultraviolet rays from the sun. A third reason for these genetics that causes cancer would be inherited from their parents. For example, an individual who later becomes a parent have these issues where there is a mutation in the gene which become oncogene and then leads over time to cancer in that individual, or if it doesn't, it just gets inherited from parents to their children. And now their children have these changes, these mutations, and over time, they lead to cancer. So, why as one ages, the risk of cancer increases? Well, because what happens is that when a normal cell like this one, so here we have a normal cell that is dividing into other cells, if let's say an error happens, so there is an error in the DNA with these cells, what happens is that the body can detect this change. So the body, so let's say there is a change in these, so these are new cells. So new cells with change in DNA. So what happened here, the body detect these changes and what it does, it eliminates these cells. It takes care of these cells so they do not exist in the body anymore. And this is how the body protects itself. However, as a human, as a person increases with age, as their age increases, the ability of the body to do this function decreases. Therefore, such changes doesn't get detected in the body. So they keep going, they pass on, and as they pass on, they accumulate and they become cancer. This is why, as individual increases in age, the risk of cancer increases as well. So now let's get into cancer development. So the way it happens, basically, initially we have a normal cell that is functioning and everything is going fine. What happened with the DNA, a cell is composed of DNA that is composed of genes, and due to mutation, so here we have a mutation, the blue one, this is a mutation. This mutation comes in and happens in the DNA, in the gene itself. So previously I mentioned that we have some genes called proto-oncogenes. These genes, they're not cancerous genes. They're basically able to become oncogenes, mutated genes that later in life become cancer cells. So here what happened is that these genes got mutated and they were not fixed. And once they become oncogene, unlike normal genes, oncogenes do not turn off. What does that mean? Which means is that basically oncogenes keeps dividing, they keep growing up. This is why it's called uncontrolled cell growth. When somebody has a cancer, it's called uncontrolled cell growth. The reason why, because the cell keeps dividing, it doesn't stop. And this is how cancer is developed. So what happened is that in comparison between normal cell and cancer cell, these changes in genes, they don't just happen and move on and become cancers and that's it. No, that's not how it works. The body protects itself with tumor suppressor genes. So what are the tumor suppressor genes? Tumor suppressor genes, basically what they do, they prevent cancer by slowing or stopping cell growth. So what happened in this case, let's say a normal cell that is moving to become a cancer cell due to a mutation, we have some genes in these cells. What they do is that their job basically is just to detect if there is any changes or mutation in DNA. If there is, what they do is that they prevent the cancer by slowing or stopping cell growth, leading to apoptosis, which is programmed cell death, just like I explained in the previous video. When there is apoptosis, this cell, basically what happened to it, dies. Therefore, every component inside the cell just goes away, it dies. And this is how the body protects itself. Because the DNA, when there is a division in the cells, the body does make mistakes. It's not perfect. And these mistakes, just like I explained over here, with age, the detection decreases. Therefore, the ability for such changes as person is increasing with age is higher in comparison to someone who is younger in age. So what happened is that once they become inactive due to changes in the DNA, so once these tumor suppressor genes, they become inactive, and that's how cancer develops and leads on. They become inactive due to changes in the DNA. So when there is a cell that is dividing, and what happened to those genes, basically there are changes, and these changes cause these tumor suppressor genes basically to stop, to become inactive. And once they become inactive, they don't work anymore. Imagine that you're holding your friend's hand and your friend is trying to run away, right? You're holding their hand, and as you get tired, you're trying to rest your hand. So what do? You take your hands away. What's going to happen? Your friend will go. It's the same thing with tumor suppressor genes. As they become inactive, they cannot detect the changes in the DNA. Therefore, these changes move on and they divide in an uncontrolled way. So what happened after that? We end up with tumor. Tumor is composed of so many cancer cells. And within a tumor, basically, cancer cells are surrounded by different immune cells, fibroblasts, molecules, and blood vessels, which this whole combination is known as microenvironment. So they're composed of all these immune cells, blood vessels, and fibroblasts, and molecules, and all these this whole combination is known as microenvironment. So what these cancer cells can do, basically, they can change this microenvironment, affecting how the cancer grows and spreads around the body. So that's how the cancer basically spreads all around the body, because it can affect this environment around it. So does the body just sits around, does nothing regarding cancer cells? Of course not. The body does its best to eliminate these cancer cells. So the way it does that is through the immune cells. So the immune system, basically, when it detects there is some changes in the cells, fights these cells. So these immune cells, they detect and attack cancer cells. Yet some cancer cells can avoid detection. So like I mentioned, as someone is increasing with age, the detection decreases. So as that decreases, cancer cells can avoid that detection and move on to different sites in the body and develop a new tumor in these sites. So some medication, chemotherapy, help immune system better detect these cancer cells. So basically what we have the same tumor over here. And the way the tumor works basically, and these cells, tumor is composed of many cancer cells. So the way these cells move on to different part of the body and spreads, because, you know, when they're developing in a certain location in the body. There is a location that these cells are developing to become a tumor. And then over time, what happens, these cancer cells break off from the tumor. And through the blood vessels, basically they move to a new location. And when they move to a new location, what they do is they start, again, in an uncontrolled way, dividing, leading to new tumors. So these are new tumors in a new location in the body. And this whole function, moving from an original tumor to a new location, making up a new tumors down there, it's called metastasis. So this is how the cancer developed in the body. And this is the end for this lecture. If you have any question or comment, please leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching.